Well, welcome back to Radio Entrepreneurs, the new version that allows us to stream every day and find out what entrepreneurs are doing to get back to work and are making it in this economy. One of the best things about our new formatted show is we can interview entrepreneurs anywhere. And this is a perfect example of that as our next interview. Let's hope he holds up his end of the bargain. That's Sambucci, founder of SalesQualia. Welcome.
Hey, good to be here.
Okay, first of all, tell us what a SalesQualia is.
SalesQualia. So SalesQualia is a sales coaching company, and we work specifically with entrepreneurs in a very narrow segment. A lot of people think entrepreneurs can be anything from the person on Etsy all the way up to some people would say Richard Branson is still an entrepreneur, right?
Right.
In our world, we specifically work with B2B tech startups, mostly Silicon Valley based, or at least that Silicon Valley mindset. These are companies that are going out and getting venture funding. They're looking for ways to create digital transformations in the industries they want to disrupt. And our job is to help them, coach them on how to build a repeatable, scalable sales process.
Well, that's interesting. And I've heard some things about you, and I just want to throw out some keywords and see how you react to them.
Oh
It's sort of
boy.
like a Rorschach test. Can you tell us how you move our client, especially in this economy, you're seeing it all the time, moving people from anxiety to action?
Yeah. So, I think a natural human response, anytime that there's something that's disruptive in your daily routine or even in the macro environment, we go into a protective shell. That's what our minds and our bodies are designed to do. And so it creates anxiety in us. We're trying to figure out what's going to happen. We had this great plan for the next 6 months. We had this great plan for 2020. And the challenge is, okay, now what do? I'm frozen. I've got this anxiety. And so we've got to go away, moving away from being this anxious, scattered, scared person and say, okay, this is the situation. How do I take action in this environment? How do I take the current environment and look for ways to make it better? Just like you're doing with your podcast. Say, okay, this is the situation. It's the way it is. I can't make a change to the environment, but what I can change is how I respond to it. And so the idea of going from anxiety to action means that we, don't try to change things that are out of your locus of control. But as an entrepreneur, you've got to adjust. You've got to change. You're going to be changing your battle plan every single day anyway. So just look at this as an opportunity to make yourself better.
So use the anxiety and understand it may not be a negative. It could be part of the creative process and use it to create a new solution.
Yeah, I mean, I think about this myself all the time. Whenever I'm feeling a sense of anxiety, it usually means that my brain is trying to process some kind of a change that might be going on in my business. Maybe it's time to hire somebody. Maybe it's time to fire somebody. Maybe it's time to adjust how I'm running my own business. And so it's an opportunity, I think, if you just take a moment, take a step back and have some emotional maturity, I think it's a real opportunity for us to say, okay, what's really going on here? What's driving this anxiety? And then you can sort out the plan of action that you want to take next.
I agree with you 100%. And I find that usually situations of anxiety are situations I have to embrace. And I know when I'm doing, let's say, like transition work or family business work, that when I'm feeling a lot of anxiety, it's because I'm starting to live the problem or the patterns, the family patterns that families have brought to businesses. And then I try to live with it because my natural instinct is to find a solution out of it. So I
That's
try
right.
to immerse myself in the anxiety and use it. Uh, can you tell me what a Q framework is?
Yeah, the Q framework is the premise of a book that I just published called Stop Hustling, Start Scaling. So because we work with tech startups, most and every entrepreneur out there, you think about what is their mindset when they start that business. It's hustle, hard work, grit, sweat. You hear those words all the time. The challenge is if you want to get out of that early stage, sort of small closet kind of business, you want to start scaling. You've got to get out of hustle mode and into scale mode. And the challenge that a lot of entrepreneurs have when it comes to selling their product and really scaling out their sales process is they don't really know what that framework should look like. Nobody's really trained that entrepreneur. Most entrepreneurs really weren't salespeople. It's a pretty small percentage of entrepreneurs that are.
Most people are not salespeople. Even most salespeople aren't.
That's true too. That's probably another podcast we could have. Yeah. So, and especially in our industry, right? A lot of the people that start these tech startups, they're engineers, they're product people. And so those first couple of customers that they've earned kind of came from network, or they came from hustle, or came from introductions from their investors, their advisors. And now they're sort of starting to feel this glass ceiling. Like, okay, how do I really scale this sales organization? How to really get from $1 million in revenue to 10 million in revenue, from 10 million to 30 million, so I can really make the impact I want to make. And so what I developed over 20 years of enterprise selling and working at startups is this idea of the Q framework. The Q stands for questions. And it's a question framework that says if there's these 7 basic questions that as a sales leader, as a company leader, if you can ask and answer these 7 questions, it will help you to start develop that first version of your own sales process. So the Q framework stands for questions. And then as an entrepreneur, you apply that framework to your business. So you're building your sales process as you start to grow.
So where did you learn your sales? Where did you have a sales mentor or a sales trainer? Did you buy a format?
Yeah. Yeah, I think, well, my first job out of college was selling cabinet doors, door to door. Sold doors, door to door.
Boy, you didn't look that buff to me.
I didn't look that buff to you?
Well, you're carrying cabinet doors with you.
Yeah, well, it was a pretty miserable existence. I did it for about 2 months. I didn't sell a single door, and I realized cabinet doors is not my calling. And so I jumped back into classified ads back when we had classified ads. And to the credit of this company, Prentice Hall, which is now Pearson Education, they hired me as an outside sales rep. And I had a phenomenal manager who was very nurturing, very, very supportive. So along with working with him every day, I just had this natural inclination for reading. And so I just made a commitment to read a book a week on sales. And so for 52 weeks, that first year I was in the field, I was reading 1 book every single week. And by the end of the year, I was the number 5 sales rep out of over 300 reps in the company. So I was this 22-year-old up on stage at the end of the year at the annual meeting with this like tie dripping down and the collar too big. And 3 people were like, what's the intern doing up on stage? And it was a lot of self-development. That really kicked off my sales career, which led to sales management, working with startups over the next 20 years. So that was really the foundation, was just personal learning and development.
Well, that helps. And my next question is, is it different selling sort of like enterprise solutions in this particular market?
Yeah, it is. And that's a lot of the changes that we've been seeing. Like, for example, when people look at the market, I hate the idea of absolutes. Like people say, nobody's buying, everything's slowing down. And that's not necessarily true, because in the companies that we work with, especially in the tech sector, if you look at industries like retail or healthcare or financial services, a lot of folks on the outside, or generally speaking, they say like, wow, those industries are really going to be slow right now. Retail is going to be really slow because of lockdown and retailers trying to figure out what's going on. But we have a couple of clients, one, for example, in the retail space, and that initial shock to the system, and they thought, wow, our business is really going to slow down. And they're selling to the biggest retailers in the world, companies like Target and Walmart and those sorts of folks. But really what they found is that when we had lockdown and everything became disaggregated, then the digital transformation became that much more important to these industries. They couldn't rely on people sitting around managing spreadsheets. They couldn't manage the process of, well, I'll just walk down the hall and ask Sally or John or Bob what to do next. Now it really became important to have core platforms, core systems, ways of doing business that allowed a lot more automation that people and process were otherwise covering up. And so for the people in our space, because they're in the tech world, what we're finding is that as long as you're communicating your message to your customer in a way that they understand it in today's times, what's the core problem that you're trying to solve? Who are the buyers of this technology? Why are they going to actually buy this thing? What's the return on investment? Those are just 3 of the questions in that Q framework. If you really position and get empathetic and understand your customer and the problem they have and why they would buy and who's involved, we're finding deals actually accelerate to the place where a lot of the clients that we're working with are actually now raising another round of capital here in Q4.
So in my last question, against stuff that you talk about, what are the 4 key reasons why every company buy a product or a service?
Yeah, it's a great question. So when we think about that business organization, there's two reasons on the business side of the house and 2 reasons sort of on the operational side of the house. So on the business side of the house, you think about, if I'm running a business, I either want to increase revenue or reduce cost, because either way I'm going to make more money, higher profit. Right? Business teams care about profit. So one reason people would buy your product is to help them generate more revenue. Keeping costs the same, profit goes up. And then obviously if you help reduce cost, keeping revenue the same, profit goes up. So those are the first 2 reasons. The other 2 reasons are about efficiency, which is what we're seeing a lot of gains in right now in the market, because companies need to be more efficient with less people, less process. So if you can show how your product increases efficiency of an organization, help them get more out of the resources they have, that's a 3rd reason. And then the fourth reason is risk mitigation.
What was the third reason?
Efficiency, gaining efficiency. So taking the same people, the same processes, the same inputs, and getting more out of those people.
Yeah, I love talking to people who do sales work like you do. So Sam, you're always invited back to Radio Entrepreneurs, and you got the California look down just right for, this East Coast interview. Sam, if somebody's looking for you at SalesQualia, how would they find you?
Best thing to do is just go over our website, SalesQualia, QUALIA.com, SalesQualia.com. The best thing about going to that page is that right there on the homepage of the company website there's a big banner right in the middle where you can actually download a full and complete copy of that book I mentioned earlier, Stop Hustling, Start Scaling. It's a full, complete PDF version, completely for free. Just pop in your email address. We'll send it over to you. We want to get the word out to as many entrepreneurs as possible with this book. We don't really care about selling as many copies as we can. You can't really buy an island on Fiji with the royalties anyway. So we'd rather get the message out, help as many people as we can. So best thing to do is go to SalesQualia, download a copy of the book, and then you'll be added to our email list. We'll update you on trainings, webinars, all the great stuff that we're doing every single month. That's
very helpful, and you were very nice not to call me out when I goofed up on your name and I called you Sam from Sambucci instead of Scott. So I hopefully there's somebody who you've been best friends with in your life who called you Sam as a nickname. So
my best friends call me way worse.
I'm not your best friend yet, so
it's all good, man.
It's been a pleasure talking to you. Sorry for my faux pas. And
all good, man.
You can call me out on it and remind everybody this is Radio Entrepreneurs. And you know what? In this economy, I'll tell you straight out, as a management consultant, sales efficiency, sales development, sales skills, it is this is what you really have to be focusing on when you're looking at a smaller funnel than we were 6 months ago. So I want to tell you we appreciate you being on the show.
Great. Thanks for having me.
Thanks. This is Radio Entrepreneurs.